What's up, friends? We are back for another episode of True Detective, and this time I remembered to turn my light on for the opening sequence. Totally forgot last time, but hopefully it wasn't too distracting. But excited to get into another episode. Really enjoyed the first episode. Very interesting and exciting premise. Just right from the start, had me invested in the characters and in the story. And the farther along the episode got, the more invested I got. And just learning about all the different personality traits about Marty and about Rust was just so well done as far as the writing goes, and I love the way that they just kind of give us teases of bits and pieces of information and then wait until later on to kind of fit the puzzle pieces together for us. And I'm sure that they will answer all the questions by the end, but I'm looking forward to kind of the suspense and the mystery of it as well in the meantime. And I love how intelligent this show seems as well, because as I mentioned at the end of the last video, it seems like the showrunners definitely expect a lot from their audience and they want an active, engaged viewer. And I love that when shows or movies do that, because it feels like I'm doing a little bit of work myself, so it makes me more engaged and excited to keep watching, because I feel like I'm a part of the case that they're discovering. And as always with the first episode of a show, they have the big task of kind of setting everything up during that time frame, not just the plot, but setting up the characters and things like that. And so now that they've done a lot of that, obviously there will still be some of that later on, but with the most of it out of the way, I'm excited to kind of get deeper into this story and see what else they discover in this episode. But just from the little bit that we got so far, it seems like they might get into some pretty dark stuff in this show. But I hope you guys are excited to watch along with me for this episode, and I'm excited to get into it. And so let's go ahead and start episode 2.
I lay awake, think about women, my daughter, my wife. Man, it's like your son just got your name on it, like a bullet or a nail in the road. Yeah, sorry I drift.
That's a good passage of time indicator right there with the beverages.
Well, we notified the deceased mother.
Do you remember the last time you saw your daughter, Dora?
We saw it on TV. Prayed for that woman's family, and it's me.
What? It's Charlie's mom. Wait, no, it's not Charlie's mom. That's Jesse's mom. Confused my shows there for a second. Oh, what is going on with her?
Mrs. Kelly.
I get these headaches. I worked in dry cleaning for 20 years. And chemicals.
Oh, goodness, man. She's been through it.
My mother, Donna Reed type, packed lunches, bedtime stories. Your mom's still alive?
Maybe.
Man, he doesn't even know. He seems to be closed off from everybody.
Cole ever talk about his parents?
A little bit about his dad, Alaska, and Mom. I think a part of Russ's problem was there was things he needed that he couldn't admit to.
Hey, I just noticed in that shot that he's not wearing a wedding ring. Did he get divorced between this and then the interview?
How was she?
Loopy, like high. And she says she found a church.
Do you remember where this church was?
No. She mentioned someplace down south. Girls used to stay there.
They keep talking about this church, but I'm feeling like it might not be the kind of church that I'm thinking of, just since we've already seen some occult stuff.
What do we know about him? It's prost, artistic, religious in some kind of way.
Every person within 1,000 miles of here is religious in some kind of way, except you.
It's very interesting that Marty is trying to avoid any sort of religious connection or significance to the murder. Maybe it's because he doesn't want to admit that there's the possibility of it.
Hey, the other night, you were over for dinner. Why didn't you leave when I had Chris call?
I don't know, man. I guess I'd sobered up a little.
Because his wife was being friendly to him, that's my guess.
Besides, it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Bad? Why'd you think that?
I was married, Marty, for 3 years. We had a baby girl. She died. Car accident. She was 2 years old.
Wow, he's opening up to him too. I didn't expect him to do that so soon.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't...
No, I mean, it wasn't you guys. It was just me. I was worried, being around that kind of thing.
Makes total sense, man. I can see why that could be a triggering experience for him.
Well, I can't say the job made me this way. More like me being this way made me right for the job. Now I live in a little room, work 4 nights a week. In between, I drink.
Man, seems like a pretty rough life, but seems like he's at peace with it. Says he knows who he is, too, so he must believe at least in some sort of destiny.
Might as well stop by.
I don't know, where are you?
Elks.
So you're drunk.
No, I'm not. I've hardly had anything to drink.
You never hardly have anything to drink.
drink.
Certainly not his wife he's talking to. Seems interesting that he's the one who seems to think that he has a better outlook on life than Rust, but seems like he has just as many vices, just doesn't want to admit it. So how long has this thing been going on? Because this is clearly not their first meeting.
You're very naughty.
Yes.
Woody already seems happier with her than he has the whole time with his wife. Interesting moral questions, though. Marty seems to judge Rust because of his drinking and other habits. And while Marty might not be an alcoholic, he's definitely no saint in other moral aspects. You could argue that cheating on your wife is more severe.
Now, what do you mean exactly, these visions you mentioned?
Chemical flashbacks, neural damage from my time in the HIDTA.
All that editing was fantastic. Those lighting effects were awesome, too.
I spent 4 years undercover. That's where they got them Fed rumors I first come in. What, you two don't know about that? Those files are still sealed, huh? Just what have you two heard about me?
He seems to always, no matter what the situation is, have a control on the conversation. This is the girl from the bar from last episode. Surprised he's met up with her again.
You want a blues?
Quaaludes. Where would I look? Working girls might know the blonde.
Heard of this place. Girls work. Call it the Ranch.
Where's that?
South of Spanish Lake.
Fascinating that even when he's like deep into his addictions or things like that, he's still laser focused on the case. Marty seems to never be focused on the case unless he's with Rust.
I was out with girlfriends.
Don't like that.
I can't meet a nice man at home.
That hurts me.
I meant that since you're married, I need to be considering my options.
Just calling him out. He can't think he deserves exclusivity when he's got two people. It's weird because Russ seems to be very hard into like alcohol and drugs, but he uses it almost as like an escape or an aid in some cases, I wonder. But they don't seem to control him to the same degree that Marty's does.
What?
You wash up, you got some pussy on you.
Key to a healthy marriage.
Are you saying that's wife? The high tide you walking in with?
Whoa, he's way more of a loose cannon than I expected.
But it ain't worth losing your hands over.
How'd that work exactly?
Just apply a couple pounds of pressure. Snap your wrist.
Oh, that's such a great line. My goodness. Dude can exert his dominance without getting super loud or pushy. Seems to be the opposite of Marty. I thought Marty was kind of the cool, calm, collected one in the first episode, but that has definitely changed at this point.
You got a specific location for this place?
I'm gonna have to ask for directions.
Maybe you could just follow your nose.
He's still taking it personally.
Looking for a little bunny ranch. Never heard about it? Little whorehouse?
Sorry, man. I'll tell you this. Russ had about as sharp an eye for weakness as I ever seen.
He's talking a lot more highly of him now that he has some dirt on him.
I'll be right back. It's my bad, boys. Maybe we got started on the wrong foot there.
Oh my gosh, dude. The impact of that hit was insane. Love that they kept that all in camera. Rust is a freaking boss, dude.
Take 353 south. I'm gonna exit off the shoulder before we get to the 14. From there we take a dirt fishing road to Bayou Chanel.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that they cut away as soon as he got him down, and just him reading off all that information right there tells us all we need to know. Had those dudes begging for mercy.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
So is this where our girls keep going and are getting taken from? Certainly looks suspicious being out here in the middle of nowhere, and it looked like a few of them had similar descriptions.
You pretty good friends with her?
She was nice to me when I first came around. Gave me tips and stuff.
Tips? About what?
Yeah. I don't think it's the kind of tips that you'd feel comfortable sharing with other people, but just by saying nothing, she's pretty much said exactly what it is.
You said she left a bag.
Yeah.
Can I see it?
Sure.
She must have a pretty good grasp on everybody there if she keeps looking to her for permission to answer stuff.
That girl's not 18. Sheriff know you got underage working here?
What do you know about where that girl's been?
Oh, that explains it. Makes sense why she kept looking to her then.
At that age, she is not equipped to make those kind of choices.
Why is it you add business to the mix and boys like you can't stand the thought? It's because suddenly you don't own it.
It's interesting. Obviously, underage girls in this situation is pretty black and white, but it's a very different experience watching Marty interact as a detective with other people, knowing that he's got a darker side to himself. Feels like he's living almost a bit of a contradictory lifestyle.
This is her diary, Marty.
Believe it. Girl that young. You know the sheriff has got a stake in this place, too.
I assume he's partly very invested in that because he's got daughters of his own, but Rust also had a daughter.
Check around for Johns, maybe knew her.
Could be the church everyone mentioned.
Well, let's check around for Johns while we're out here and pick up the church on Monday.
Doesn't seem quite as invested in the case. Rust is ready to go. Move on to the next thing.
My daughter, she was on her tricycle in our driveway. Anyway, afterwards, Claire and I turned on each other.
I still didn't make it clear who killed his daughter because he just said he and his wife turned on each other. So I don't know if it was her or if it was him.
I transferred from robbery to narco. Somewhere in there, I emptied a 9 into a crankhead for injecting his infant daughter with crystal.
Oh my gosh, man, this is some heavy stuff. That was the time he mentioned in the dinner when he fired his weapon.
They offered me psych pension, and I said no. I said, put me on homicide somewhere. And, Louisiana is what they had.
Man, what a great scene. That's some phenomenal acting right there by McConaughey. Love how long some of those takes were, just letting him read off those lines. Definitely letting him showcase his ability in that scene.
So you're telling me the world isn't getting worse? I've seen kids today, all in black, wearing makeup. Everything's sex.
The classic older generation tactic of getting mad at things they don't necessarily understand.
I got this lead I wanted to check up on. I told you about it.
You didn't tell me anything about it.
I did tell you about it. I mentioned it. It's the new case.
A lot of troubles in the home. Interesting, though, getting the perspective of Rust having been through a failed marriage and seeing where he is now, and then seeing Marty in the process of potentially a failed marriage. I'm guessing one because he didn't have a ring in the interview.
I come home where there's supposed to be peace and calm.
Who told you that? It's not always that way. It's not supposed to be.
It's supposed to be what I want.
Dang, he's quite the selfish guy. Holy. The audacity to say all this when he's out there cheating as well. Maybe that's why he had so much animosity in the beginning towards Russ, is because he loves having control and when people serve him exclusively.
Sometimes I think you might have a penchant for self-pity. And right now I need you to be strong so that I can do my job.
Oh my gosh, dude, he's laying into her right now. I haven't seen her do anything so far that I feel like deserves that.
Dinner time, kid.
Are you coming?
Yeah, of course. I'm starving.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Good.
Why would they ask that unless he's not come to the dinner table in the past? Is that a setup of a crime scene, or are they trying to pretend play to be him?
Doctor said she didn't feel a thing. Went straight into a coma. Isn't that a beautiful way to go out? Painlessly, as a happy child.
Man, it's beautiful dialogue. Holy cow, this is such heavy stuff, though. Despite all the hardships this man has gone through, he seems so at peace with everything.
I think of the hubris to yank a soul out of non-existence. As to my daughter, she spared me the sin of being a father.
Whoa, man, what a line, dude. Some of the dialogue in this is just astounding. Man, that was such a good scene. Holy cow. Every time Rust is in the interview now, I'm just so interested in what he has to say.
I don't see the connection between 2 dead cats and a murdered woman.
We just got the mandate. We got to compare notes with what you got.
Xerox all you want. Make you feel like good cops.
Love how he doesn't put on a front for anybody. He just tells it like it is every time.
You got an opinion, you hold on to it.
It's a political circle jerk, you know this.
No, our bosses don't want you at all. You understand? I don't want you.
unbelievable, man. He's the one doing all the work. They'd be pretty much nowhere without all he's done.
Give us the rest of the month before they lump it into whatever the play is with the task force, yeah?
I'll try. 2 weeks. And then you two start catching again. Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting that maybe Rust is doing so much more for the case right now because he's got his own life in harmony, but because of how unorganized Marty's own life is, he's struggling with the case.
It don't make sense. There's nothing out here.
According to this map, it should be within these few miles.
Now, I don't know if this was an intentional, directorial choice, but I find it interesting that Marty's the one who drives the car, even though Rust is the one that's driving the investigation. What? That's an amazing shot. Are you kidding me? If that was real, that is an incredible achievement for a shot like that. I wonder if that was CGI though.
You still see things?
No, they stopped altogether after I was clean a couple years.
No numbers on this place. Fire must have happened a long time ago.
Interesting that he was clean after the case, because it seems in that interaction with both of them like it might have put more stress on them, but I don't know. This is such an interesting set piece. I really like it.
Place is trashed. This ain't no kind of anything.
Marty's so quick to dismiss things.
Yeah, back then, the visions. Yeah, most of the time I was convinced I'd lost it. Marty.
Is he seeing something right now? I loved the way that they overlaid the interview dialogue with that scene too, instead of just cutting back.
There were other times.
Oh, shoot.
I thought I was mainlining the secret truth of the universe.
That's definitely connected. That's exactly what the victim looked like in the first scene. Once again, man, all thanks to freaking Rust for actually digging beyond the surface. Marty was ready to get in and get out. I'm a big fan of how this show seems to have given the actual case a bit of a back seat, if you will, to getting the stories of the actual detectives on the case. I think it's going to pay off big time, because the more that I know about them and the more I'm either connected or disconnected from them, it affects how I feel about pretty much all the other story elements. Great characters are pretty much the cornerstone of a good story like this. Well, I didn't expect it to happen so quickly, but Marty and Rust's place in my mind have almost completely swapped from where they were at the end of the first episode. Really, really loved the way that this episode gave a deep look into the psyche and just the mentality of Rust's character and just all the things that he's been through and experienced in his life that made him the way he was at the time of the case and at the time of the interview in the future. And that kind of goes back to what I said at the end of the last episode, where the show gives us these little morsels of information and then pays it off later by giving us the whole picture or more of the picture, because I saw a man who was addicted to so many things and who seemed to have lost a bit of control on his life, but learning all these things in this episode about his character, it completely changes my perspective of him. And it did the same thing with Marty, but just in the opposite direction. I saw a family man who seemed to have a good grasp on all these things in his life, but this episode presented him as a much more disorganized, flawed individual, because he definitely has almost no order in his life, and it seems like everything is kind of falling apart for him right now. Even when he's with Alexandra Daddario's character, he seemed to kind of be the happiest and the most at peace there, but she was still calling him out and was just using him for kind of a good time, because she was talking about how she wanted to actually find someone else. And so even the people that he's kind of making these moral mistakes with are seeming to have a better grasp on their own lives. And so just fantastic character development in this show so far. And I think the strong script is aided big time by having such powerhouse lead actors as well, because they portray all the emotions just perfectly. Especially Matthew McConaughey in this episode was so captivating, especially in the interview scenes. Just some amazing line delivery. Especially loved when they would kind of sit on a shot for a while and he would just run off like a minute or two of dialogue, and it was just done so well, and I really felt for that character and felt the humanity in him. But despite how many great character moments there was in this episode, they still did make some progress on the case as well. Obviously finding that little trailer park, whatever it was that the lady had set up, and found out that Dora had been there, and hopefully got a bit of a lead there. They talked to the one girl, and then later on they were also able to find the church, which they made that discovery of the painting on the wall, which is pretty much exactly the setup of the girl in the first episode. And so that's definitely the biggest lead they've had so far. Even though it's an abandoned church, I'm sure they'll be able to dig up some sort of connection or name from that they can trace down. And so looking forward to the next episode. Really enjoying how long these episodes are. Obviously HBO shows don't have to worry about commercials or anything, so the runtime for their shows are always a bit longer than like a cable show, and it definitely gives them a lot more time to cover more information. And so really looking forward to the rest of the series. There's still a lot left, and so I'm excited for all the discoveries I'll be making over the next couple of episodes. And hopefully the discoveries and things I've gathered from the first 2 episodes have been correct so far. If I've been off or anything, or if I've been correct, definitely let me know your thoughts on those episodes. I'm watching this one right after the first, so I haven't had the chance to read any comments or interact with you guys on that one. And so this will be really the first time that I'll have the opportunity to interact with you guys with comments and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to your insights. Definitely a much deeper and more character-driven show than I expected coming into it, and so that definitely provides a lot more interesting discussion points. But I'm 100% hooked into the story, and so I can't wait to get into the next episodes. And until those, I will see you all later. Peace.